Welcome to the RVA Affiliate Collective podcast, where we share stories around the business of fitness and other things going on in the local RVA fitness community. Be sure to check out our collective shop at rvaaffiliatecollective.org and give us a follow on Instagram at RVA Affiliate Collective. Enjoy the show. So welcome to the Collective Podcast. I'm here with Matt from S3E. And for those who don't know, who are you? What do you do?
Appreciate you having me on. My name is Matt. I'm the owner and head coach here at S3E CrossFit. That's who I am and what I do, kind of thing. Just a little background information, I guess, kind of thing. Been coaching, been a CrossFit coach since 2010 and been coaching full-time pretty much since then. I was... Did 22 years in the Navy, did 11 years active duty, got off active duty in 2007. I was living down in Virginia Beach, kind of missed that camaraderie a little bit. Was in the special operations community with the Navy, bomb disposal guy and diving and stuff like that. We'd work out all the time, like every day kind of thing, an hour or so every day pretty much. And I missed that kind of group training, group suffering kind of stuff. And so I was trying to find that as I was doing some work down in Virginia Beach, and give all the credit to my wife. One day was like, you could get people to pay you to do that, right? So I did a reserve mobilization 2009, and I took it actually was the CSCS study material. I took it with me while I was on that deployment. And as you know, like everybody always thinks deployment's like you're running and gunning 24/7. It's like, no, it's like 90% of the time you're bored off your ass. So like plenty of time to study and do all that fun stuff. So I took the task and passed it when I came back. Worked for about 6 months as a personal trainer, commercial gym here in Richmond kind of thing. And quickly kind of realized like the commercial gym model was not something that really worked for me kind of thing specifically. I always like to think of looking back, hindsight obviously 2020 or whatever you want to call it, but I definitely learned more when I look back on things. But as I was going through there, basically like 90+% of the people they sign a contract to, like they're totally expecting them not to come back, like not to be gone after 2 weeks. And they're on a 5-year contract, they kind of forget and they just end up making monthly payments and whatnot. And then specifically like trying to sell people on personal training, it was really felt a little bait and switch kind of thing. But again, looking back on it was an opportunity for me to learn to kind of, show people your value. And we were just talking about that before we started recording, I think, just how you like build the value. And so, but I was doing CrossFit, like started like doing CrossFit around the end of 2008. Kind of like the typical story, or typical guy story anyway. It's like you see it on the internet, and you're like, I can totally do that. And cherry pick my workouts, try to do it in a fitness center. And, you're like, obviously, you struggle with some things and some things, well, like push-ups and pull-ups, sit-ups, like, yeah, I can do that all day long, because that's what we did in the Navy. But, snatching, clean and jerk, you're like, what am I doing? You look and you go to YouTube and you're like, oh man, like, you get some good videos and some bad videos. But yeah, so I started when my wife got a job up here in Richmond. Came up and I think at the time there was only 3 CrossFit gyms in town, maybe 4. And went in, did a trial workout at Full Circle and loved it. I loved the coaching aspect of it, loved the group, small group classes and all that fun stuff. And pretty much when I moved up here and then came back from that deployment, I was, working out all the time, like 4, 5, 6 days a week kind of thing. And then once I got certified and I was working as a trainer, one day, Jason, who's the owner of Full Circle, was like, hey, you want to do some coaching for me? And I was like, hell yeah, man. And then just jumped in. And then he wanted to bring on board a couple partners, and there's like 3 of us actually. And then did some sweat equity for a year. And I was co-owner there until the end of 2016 kind of thing. Did another deployment for a year down to Virginia Beach, which sounds funny, but I was gone for pretty much the whole year down there. But yeah, pretty much full-time since right at the end of 2010, beginning of 2011, full-time coaching kind of thing. Yeah, and then so at the end of 2016, I left Full Circle and started S3E in my garage, just kind of starting, just going a little different. I'm passionate about endurance sports, kind of If anybody's familiar with like Chris Henshaw and aerobic capacity kind of thing, like very similar story to like him. Love that. I mean, I wasn't great like he was, but I was, I loved the endurance stuff, the triathlon, did marathons, Ironmans, all that fun stuff. Loved CrossFit and loved how like it made me better at endurance athletes. I love how it was like shorter workouts and, definitely changed my way of doing it, but just kind of like thinking a little bit different, blending the aerobic capacity and CrossFit kind of thing. So anyway, just that's really where S3E came from, kind of thing.
I'm sure people want to know, what does it stand for, right?
Oh yeah,
that's probably like the first question.
So
right?
it's military guy, so I love my acronyms.
That's
but
right.
So S3E, it stands for strength, speed, stamina, and endurance. So 3 S's and an E, S3E.
Yeah.
It's kind of that military thought process there, but it honestly so those 3. So again, kind of like the aerobic capacity CrossFit model is, when I kind of look at training athletes, training members, it's like taking all 3 of those components. I know CrossFit obviously talks about the 10 principles of fitness, right. And obviously all 4 of
physical
those
skills,
are part of that kind of thing. But if you kind of think of, like what parts of the workout potentially that you're hitting, and again, obviously it's constantly varied, so you're not hitting them every single day, but obviously strength, speed, stamina, and endurance, and those 3 things blended together when what we hope is a smart way kind of thing, that makes a really good endurance athlete, really good athlete, period, general fitness kind of athlete and stuff like that. So that was, and actually, it was one of those ones that was like, when I started my business, was it state corporation committee, and I was like, let's see if that's, and it came up, and it was fine. Nobody ever had that one. And then when I applied to become an affiliate at the beginning of this year, kind of thing, I applied. You have to give 3 different ones.
Right.
I don't even remember the other ones.
Yeah.
I don't even remember the other ones I put, kind of thing. But I remember obviously S3 CrossFit was my first one, and like a dummy, I didn't even look until after I submitted the application. And sure enough, there's somewhere, I don't think it's in North Carolina, that's S3 CrossFit, no E,
yeah.
right? And I was like, oh, and sure enough, it's strength, speed, and stamina. And I'm like, oh my God, woo, that's really close, kind of thing. But yeah, I came back approved, and I was like, oh, okay, thank goodness. So it's obviously just that E made it slightly different enough that HQ was like, oh, you're good to go.
I guess as long as you don't expand into
North Carolina,
right?
Well, you have to be a new name at that point.
That's true.
Affiliate.
That's true. That's right. Yeah, they don't keep you under the same name.
Even if you open up a new location, even in town, I think you have to have some sort of difference.
It gets affiliated differently, but you could put the same name.
Yeah, I mean S3E South or something like that, or whatever kind of thing.
Yeah,
but,
interesting.
So that's me in a nutshell.
Aerobic capacity is interesting. Henshaw's been finding that's the untapped market on the tip of the spear. But even for your everyday CrossFitters, that building that engine, especially on your legs, more so than sitting on a rower or on a bike, but actually running and things like that, that it crosses over to all the other areas, whether it's, the 1 to 5 minute intervals or the 3 to 10, or all the different metabolic pathways. They're finding the aerobic capacity will build in all those areas.
Oh yeah,
and you'll actually get PRs on lifts as well, without even necessarily doing specific strength. And I think for me, what I've noticed is a lot of CrossFit gyms, especially after 2012 games, when they had a lot of heavy barbell stuff, they all quickly switched to this strength bias programming. Which is fine, right, if that's what you want to do. But I realized that the entire market started doing that and prescribing it to general population, which is probably not the best, right? Because someone comes in, they're 100 pounds overweight. The last thing you want to do is put an extra 100 pounds on them, right?
Yeah.
You really just need to get them on a bike and get them the ability to start running again and to be able to climb up on jump boxes and do those things before you even worry about having them get a squat PR, right?
No, I mean, just I would say even all the gyms around here in Richmond and a lot of the ones that I've dropped into and I want to believe most CrossFit gyms now are this way, just passionate about movement, right? So it's you use the barbells to kind of accentuate the movements or some of the flaws in the movements you might be seeing to show people on how to move better and all that fun stuff. But yeah, and it's why are you gonna try to get somebody to do a 300-pound squat if they can't do 300 air squats really well, kind of thing.
Yeah, or jog a mile.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Have you been to aerobic capacity course?
I have not.
Dude, I highly
really
recommend it. It's
because he teaches all of them.
Yeah,
and that's what, I really want to go.
One you get to like spend a whole day with him.
Yeah.
And like he basically says like, hey, I don't even need to eat lunch. He's like, we have an hour for lunch. If you need to go get something, get it. But he basically he'll sit there for an hour and he like ask me questions, and we asked a bunch of questions, and we was talking about some things. And I mean, like for example, CrossFitters love to hate burpees. But like one of the things that we talked about, what like kind of blew my mind, is that you talk about running. So like this running workout, like everybody understands this. It's like I'm going to have you sprint, like you're on a track, right? You're going to have you sprint 100 meters, and then you're going to jog 300 meters, and you're going to do that 5 times, no rest, right? Like everybody can see that in their head, right? That I'm going to go all out, and then I'm going to go slow enough on that, but I'm not going to walk, but I'm going to jog, right? And you can do that. Like that makes sense in your mind. But he kind of translate that same idea. It's like, for example, this 20.1 that just came out. It's like, hey, if you kind of suck at burpees, but you have trained yourself to recover, like you find a pace on your burpees to recover, then you can sprint the snatches and the clean and jerks, and then go into your 10 burpees without stopping, right? Like call it a jog your burpees and recover. Like we talked about that, and I was like, oh my God, like you can recover on your burpees. And most people were like, oh, burpees are gonna suck. And I'm like, no, but and that's just one obviously example.
Right, and he's big on the breathing thing too. Like if you know how to breathe properly while you're doing this burpees, you definitely can recover.
Yeah, and like I said, so like coming from an endurance background, and then like having to jump into CrossFit, and a lot of times, like CrossFit, like just go fast, go hard, Right. But it's like, hey, if you got a 5-round workout and you get that first round done in like, a minute, but then rounds 2 to 4 or 2 to 5 are like 3, 4, 5 minutes. It's like, well, you kind of screw that workout up, right? Like you went out too fast, and then you kind of think about pacing. And so that's his whole thing is really, and he even admits, he's like, it's really hard with CrossFit because there's a million different movements that you got to do. He's like, but if you can find that one, it's like, hey, you're good at cycling a barbell, but like try to find that pace on your barbell so that you can not stop and actually just go into the next thing, quote unquote, recovered, but your heart rate's not through the roof and all that other fun stuff. So
yeah, you got to find a way to flow through the workout.
Yeah. And so obviously, or not obviously, but what we do here is a little bit different than I would say like most gyms. Although Thursdays is kind of International Rest Day, in the CrossFit world, but we take Thursday as an aerobic capacity day. So pretty much from like, the beginning of spring, kind of into winter through the fall, we go to the track in the morning. We do our 5:30 a.m. class at St. Christopher's.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we obviously like we will attract a lot of endurance athletes, and a lot of them like to run, but we also try to get a lot of our like just general fitness people. Be like, hey, come out to these workouts, like, because again, it's a chance to practice that in a relatively low, like you're not cycling a barbell, you're not doing burpees and all that fun stuff, but in a relatively easy way to kind of practice that pacing and that feel. It's like, hey, what does hard feel like? What does moderate feel like? What does easy feel like? And then kind of get that feeling of what those should be, and then try to translate that back here. And then on Thursday, Thursday evenings, we'll do a rowing workout and a bike workout kind of thing. Same concept, like pretty much the same workout, but obviously just changed a little bit, modified a little bit for the rowing and the bike. But and even that, like if people who hate running, we're like, hey, come Thursday nights, because it's like, it was all CrossFitters know we can put you on a rowing machine and beat the crap out of you. Yeah. But like again, like it's
save your joints.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, well, but then you're almost like you're ready to you're like, all right, what's next, kind of thing. So. And same thing on the bike. Everybody hates the bike, but it's the same thing. Like you can go hard and it sucks, but then hop off, flop on the floor for a minute or two, and you're fine. So
yeah, I don't know if I don't push myself hard enough or what, but I still can't wrap my head around the typical CrossFitter dying on the floor thing. Even before I got into CrossFit, I always looked at it and thought it was somewhat ridiculous, like dramatic, I guess.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, I understand some people might collapse, like if they've really pushed themselves that far, but you see these people like, shouting for them people to remove their shoes, and they're rolling around and like, it's like, how do you want to go out on your feet or on your knees? That's how I feel about that. It's like, get up and walk it off. It's going to start flushing faster anyway. Yeah. Like laying there is going to be more painful than walking it off or hopping on the bike and just doing an easy spin. And it's really hard. When I was coaching, I would try really hard to preach that, get up, like you look at the class, they're all just laying on the floor. It's like, you guys, you didn't die, you didn't just, I know they feel like it, right? It's all relative, but I don't know why. That's just always that little thing I look at and I'm just like, why are people doing this?
I know you follow the everybody does the Make WODs Great Again. That guy's awesome. I can't think of his name, but like, that's awesome. And that's one of my favorite ones was, it's like coaching CrossFit. It's a lot like having a baby. It's like you talk to them the same way. It's like, why are you on the floor? Why did you take your shirt off? Did you just pee yourself? Like, what happened? Like, you're seriously like, why are you guys doing this? Kind of thing. So
pretty much. So we kind of talked a little bit about where the idea came from, how you got started in the garage. But as far as like the early days of opening up, what was it like? What was going through your mind? Whether that was when you first got a place of business or it was in the garage or what? Because I know you came from Full Circle, and I don't know if that was a tough transition or how that went down, but just curious your thoughts on the early days of S3E.
I was gonna say, even before S3E, like kind of going back, I mean, it was, a little nervous. So like like I said, obviously a steady income with the Navy, and then when I was off active duty, I did a couple years as a contractor down in Virginia Beach. Again, like steady income, pretty good work. Now, I enjoyed it. It was in the training world, so it was kind of an easy translate. So it was always kind of a leap of faith to kind of think about. I always make the joke that if I was going to write an autobiography, I already know the title. And the title of my autobiography is like, well, that didn't happen, kind of thing. Because it was like, we were talking when we started before, like joining the Navy. I was like, I'm going to go to the Naval Academy. I'm going to fly fighter planes. Well, none of that happened, except for joining the Navy part, right? And whatnot. So it's hindsight's always 20/20.
Except for next year.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but if somebody had told me, like if I go back and meet 17-year-old Matt and was like, hey man, you're going to own your own business one day and you're going to be a CrossFit coach. And like, that's your destiny, man. Like that's your calling in life. I'd have been like, you are crazy, old man, get out of here, kind of thing. So, I mean, it's always a little bit scary when I look back on it and be like, man, it really was, those early days to kind of take that leap of faith. And sometimes I don't feel like I've landed yet from that leap. Still feel scared. But yeah, I mean, it was a little bit scary kind of transitioning from, kind of like a contractor 9-to-5 type-ish job kind of thing to coaching. But, like cliche as it was like, it felt right. Like I knew that's what I was like called to do, purpose in life, whatever you want to call it kind of thing. Like I felt it at my core and I still do to this day. That's why I'm here, is to leave an impact on the world. It was definitely scary to like make a decision to, it's a little bit easier, again, like kind of looking back, it was a little bit easier to kind of jump into like co-owning a business or co-owning with the guys at Full Circle. Because it's like, it was already established and, you got other people you can kind of lean on and all the fun stuff. And, really it was like really mostly coaching and kind of learning business as I went along. And I'm still dumb when it comes to that side of the house, the business side of it and everything. But yeah, like kind of like the whole idea of doing it all on your own, I mean, that was scary and still scary kind of thing. And, every single day for the last, 3 years kind of thing. And so it's still a little scary to kind of think like, hey man, you're the one that's sink or swim with this whole thing. Right. And, but I mean, that's, again, you can use CrossFit as a cliche for life. It's like, the open workouts, like you don't know what's coming, but when you see it, you're like, all right, this is going to suck. It's going to hurt. But then you get through the other side and you're like, okay, that was kind of fun. Kind of sucked, kind of hurt, but it was kind of fun. I could have done it better. I could have done X, Y, and Z better. And the same thing, like every single day, you do stuff, and it's, and again, kind of the early days, I mean, if I had to do it all over again, may have taken a little bit more time instead of, it's nothing wrong with like starting in your garage. I think that's a great, and again, like that's the kind of classic CrossFit example. Like, I started in my garage and now I've got 200 members or whatever kind of thing. Like that's the classic CrossFit story, the one that everybody wants. Maybe taking a little bit more time and kind of like, instead of jumping into it right away, just kind of setting myself up a little bit more for success. But again, it's to me, the best way I learn is by making mistakes, and I do a lot of those. So it's perfect. I learn a lot.
Well, there you go.
I'm pretty smart. I'm just kidding.
Did you find that your military experience helped you prepare for the unknowable a little bit?
A little bit. Yeah. I mean,
not so scared to jump off the deep end, but at the same time, like you knew you had some sort of skills, and whether it's resiliency, mental fortitude, or whatever, like, even if it does go completely south, like I know I'm going to be okay because I've been through, whatever.
Yeah. I was gonna say, I mean, I was like a bomb disposal thing, you're like, man, you make a mistake in business and like it sucks and, you lose money or you get sued or whatever kind of thing. And you get in some sort of, like spat and you're like, well, at least nobody's shooting at me and you're trying to blow me up and all that fun stuff. But I mean, it's not a perfect translation. I mean, they're like, and I think that's one of the things as I've met and like worked with a lot of veterans and just talked to different organizations, is trying to take those skills that we gained in the military and translate them in the civilian world. And it's tough. I mean, the civilian world, I think a lot of times, obviously there's only like 2% roughly of the population that even goes in the military nowadays and is a veteran. It's like 3% of the population or something like that has ever served in the military in any capacity. And so it's scary. I mean, there's a lot of things sometimes that don't translate, and there's ways that you do things in the civilian world that like military people just don't understand, and obviously vice versa, kind of thing. So I mean, there it is, but I think it's hard, you got to concentrate sometimes on, like being open, kind of thing, and not being rigid. And I think a lot of times, obviously the military has this, this reputation of being rigid in the way they're thinking and kind of, like archaic in some ways and whatnot. But that was, again, and just the community that I was fortunate to serve in was one of the things that we weren't, like obviously there's rules, like when you're diffusing bombs and IEDs and stuff like that, like there's rules you gotta follow. Yeah, like there's SOPs and all fun stuff. Yeah. But we were always saying like, hey, if there's a better way, or if like that didn't work and there's a different way to do this, or there's a safer way, or there's a, faster way, or whatever it is kind of thing, like let's talk about it and let's figure it out. So it was always like, we had that mentality of like, at least in all the teams that I served with kind of things, like we had the mentality like, hey man, like if you see something, say something, let's figure it out. Like everybody's just like, can be like, hey, stop what we're doing, back out. Like,
kind of
take your time.
Continuous improvement.
Yeah,
mindset,
absolutely.
Right? Growth mindset.
Yeah. And I think like bringing that to, like, again, I'm the owner and the head coach and, but I don't have all the answers. And so, reaching out to people like you and all these, everybody around town that I have a good relationship with, that have, I don't have all the answers. I want to bounce ideas off people. And same thing like, my assistant head coach and general manager, she's a teacher by trade. So like the whole idea of me being smarter on how to teach people is no different than me being smart, like coaching kind of thing. So it's really great. And a couple, the coaches that have here working with me kind of thing, same thing. So like we come together as a team and I'm like, look, this is what I think. This is what my belief is, my vision. But maybe you guys have a better idea of how to accomplish this mission, and let's talk about it. Let's figure it out, kind of thing. And then obviously, but still at the end of the day, you got to be the one that's like, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to execute. And
you got to design the vision and get the buy-in and bring them along.
So
unfortunately, you don't have a rank structure to just say like, this is why you got to follow me, right? So I mean, I've served, so like I understand exactly trying to translate that. Even in my full-time job in IT, which I don't do IT in the Army, but the leadership experience is really hard to translate to like corporate management, because it's a different language, but it's the same at the same time. Like, and I always tell them like, look, I can handle this because like no one's getting shot at. You know? It's like, this is going to be like a cakewalk compared to it, but you still have to find a way to speak their language at the same time, and that can be tough.
Yeah, I think it's hard for us too sometimes just saying that. It's like somebody, I'm assuming like in your world, somebody comes to you with a crisis. Like, oh my God, I got to get this done. And they're freaking out. And you're kind of like, well, this isn't a big deal. Like, again, like nobody's shooting at me, nobody's blowing me up or whatever. Yeah. But to me, I like being empathetic, and again, like having to learn that. You're like, well, this is a crisis for this person. Like I'm looking at this as not a big deal. Like we can handle this. I can help them out. But this is a big deal for them. And so I think, again, like that's learning that as I've gone, like transitioned from active duty to reservist to like retired and like full-time civilian work now kind of thing, like trying to be more empathetic and less rigid. And I've seen that in the military too. Again, like 22 years, it's definitely changed a lot, where like early on it was like, I'm the boss, do this, I don't care what you have to say. And then now it is like, hey, we're a team of teams, but let's figure out how to accomplish the mission together. And then obviously there's still one person that's like, this is what we're going to do. But yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point that I just thought about, was like, like it's a crisis for somebody. It may not be that big a deal for you, but you got to recognize as a coach, as a business owner, as a father, as a, husband or whatever, like this is important to them. It's that they are freaking out about it. So let me help them.
Yeah. It doesn't necessarily mean you also have to freak out to show that. Like you just have to, I think it does give you, all the military experience will give you a calm approach, which is very valuable in the civilian world. Is, wow, you have the ability to remain calm. But you also have to meet them where they are and not necessarily talk down to them, but like not belittle their reaction, because to them, that's like extreme, right? Yeah. And you have to acknowledge that and empathize with them, meet them there, but also be that calming hand that guides them along. So it's a fine line between being dismissive and actually being helpful, right?
Absolutely.
So what sort of things surprised you, like in the opening process? Like anything specific, like maybe the other business owners wouldn't think about, like some sort of legal thing you had to deal with?
Oh God, everything's legal, man. Like the lawyer I helped like craft my waivers and contracts and all that fun stuff when I was standing the business up. It was very sobering when he was like, yeah, you're, the waiver you got, like obviously you steal one, you tweak it, you kind of, run it through the lawyer. So you're not spending multiple hours of him building something, but, I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good waiver. He's like, but I'm just gonna tell you, like, any good lawyer is gonna poke holes in it, but you're dumb not to have one. And I'm like, damn, dude, you just basically told me like I should, like, there's no reason to have one, but there is, and I'm like, No, I mean, that's just a silly story.
That's the first question they're going to ask is like, well, do you have a waiver? And if you say no, then it's like, well, that's dumb. You're on the book now.
No, I mean, there's always, it's the things you don't know that you don't know that are going to come and bite you in the butt kind of thing, and there's dealing with government, again, like government bureaucracy, whether it's state, or local or whatever, and that's what I was kind of like alluding to at the beginning, was just kind of like, hey, like really taking a little bit more time and almost kind of slowing your roll, in my case, kind of thing, like slowing it down a little bit, maybe, kind of doing a little bit more research. Because I think a lot of, especially in the CrossFit world, a lot of the business, coaches that are out there that are the good business coaches in the CrossFit world that I've read about and talked with or worked with kind of thing, they all talk about this. Like vast majority of the owners in the CrossFit world come from like, I love coaching, I love CrossFit, I want to do that, I want to start a gym, and I want to give a great product.
Yeah, I want to coach all the classes.
I want to coach all the classes. Yeah, you like that. But then, at the end of the day, it's like, well, you still got to do the books, you still got to pay taxes, you still got to like, get waivers, and you got to have a website, and it's
unclog that toilet.
Yeah, exactly. and again, it's the 20,000 different hats you got to wear and all that fun stuff. So like this, like us, like getting together, periodically and kind of bouncing ideas off each other and kind of talking and all that fun stuff is awesome. But that, like, to me, it was like, man, I really didn't know how much I didn't know about business. And then when you get into the business side of it, you're like, damn, I don't know a lot. There's a lot I don't know. And I didn't know that I didn't know a lot, kind of thing. And it was like, woo. So that, like, it's not that coaching's easy. And you never want to lose focus on the fact that, like, that's our product. Like, and to me, like that's what separates the micro gyms, the CrossFit gyms, from all the other commercial gyms. Again, like when I was working there in the past, was the product is the coaching. Like, it's not the workouts, it's not the fancy equipment. And honestly, it's not even the community. That's a big part of it, but that's not what we're selling. We're really selling that coaching, that relationship building kind of thing. And so, like, you can't lose focus on that. So you have to focus time and effort on being a better coach. But like you said, damn, you got to spend time unclogging toilets and painting the walls and, writing thank you letters. And it's like, ooh, so it's all that business stuff that takes a lot of time and takes a lot of effort. And again, like, that's not necessarily why you got into this business in the first place. We talked about this in one of the networking groups I belong in. You hear it all the time. People are like, oh, if you make your passion your job, then you'll never work a day in your life. And we're all like, that's bullshit, man. Like, that's what gets you through.
The grind.
Yeah. Like, that's what gets you through all the other times. But realistically, like, again, like, your passion may be coaching or, hair and makeup or salon, like, whatever it is. You still got to pay the bills, you got to pay taxes, you still got employees, you still got, all that stuff. You still got clients, disputes and, credit card things and merchant. It's like, none of that is my passion, but that all that crap is related to me being able to do the things I love doing. Me loving what I do gets me through that, but also it's a job too. And so like, that to me, it was like, whew, like, I'm living my passion, but man, it sucks sometimes.
Yeah. I had originally looked at opening up in the Richmond area before I started the collective, and just the collective was born out of maybe I can provide value some other way. But the idea of opening up, it's nothing like, I don't understand why there isn't a easy guide for each major like metro market. You want to open up a business, here's what you need to do, here's where you need to go, like for all the basic stuff that everyone has to go through, like permits and zoning. And there is some of that stuff, but it's like scattered. And then it's like, well, how's that in Richmond, or how's that in Henrico, or how's that in Chesterfield? And you start breaking it down, and you just end up, Jacob on the last episode was talking about hanging out at City Hall, essentially, just like staying on them to get certain things done. Like they wouldn't just do it. Like he had to actually stay on them to actually see it happen. We know that from government service. Like we understand, like, they'll lose your paperwork 20 times. So you got to kind of have to like stand over them. But there's nothing out there that really prepares people for it. I think at the same time, that's kind of like what makes the area, or America, like really awesome, is that you can just start a business, right? But you also on your own. Yeah. You don't get any hand holding unless you've got some capital and some people who've done it before. So I wonder if the market with all these CrossFit gyms, 20 something in the area, if the larger ones that can provide full-time coaching opportunities for the people who open up because they want to be a full-time coach, if that doesn't start consolidating gyms in the area. If a gym is big enough to be able to hire like a full-time coach, why would I open up my own business just to be a full-time coach anymore? And then only the business people who are passionate about maybe the gym are opening up or running the businesses, and not necessarily full-time coaches trying to run businesses. I wonder if that's going to be like the next wave of consolidation.
Yeah, I've been reading a little bit, again, like in the community of just kind of like, do you build or do you buy is kind of, like, I've seen a couple people, talking about that. And, I think you're right. It's like, if you want to be a full-time coach, then, and like, that's what I want S3E eventually to be, is to have, a handful of full-time employees that can make a living. And I think, so like going back, so when I first got my CSCS, like it really struck me when I was working at the commercial gym I was at, that I came in there, like all I did was, buy study materials, study it, and pass the test. And I had got like 4 letters on the end of my name now. And whenever I was talking to anybody, like all the different personal training certifications that they have at commercial gyms, they're like, oh man, you're a CSCS. Oh man, you're so smart. And I'm like, I haven't really coached anybody yet. Like I've never been on a professional football team or basketball team or whatever, like college, like I haven't even, not even high school yet kind of thing. It's like, I haven't done squat with my CSCS, but you guys look at me like I'm a god. But like, that really struck me, was that like, here you go, you got a CSCS. Now it's like, there you go, golf into the wind. And in CrossFit, it's kind of like, the same thing with like level 1, 2, it's like, hey, you passed the test. All right, cool. Now you get to go do it. And there's no like kind of professional, I mean, you military, right? Like you join a certain, corps, or a certain like for me in the special operations community, there's a, like career path. Like, again, it's not exactly cookie cutter kind of thing, but it's like, hey, these are the milestones that, for 20, 30 years that you should be trying to get to and accomplish, and this is how you're going to be successful. There is none of that, like even in the professional strength and conditioning world kind of thing. You see these guys bouncing around different sports teams all the time. They're making businesses on their own and whatnot. So like, that's like, I want to build, like have that, and have like a business where, people can develop professionally kind of thing. And eventually, like you said, if it's like you're coaching full time and you can make a salary and like, that's all you want to do, like, that's awesome. That's great. Like, we need people who do that. Like, again, like that's going to allow me to not do that and build a business and build a network and support the collective and support other gyms in the area kind of thing, doing the same thing, kind of fighting the fight against the commercial gyms. But then it's like, but also if you recognize, somebody's desire and drive to do that, to like go from full-time coaching to owning a business, to like develop them as well too. And I think, again, like that's the career path I see that for strength and conditioning coaches, CrossFit coaches, micro gym owners, whatever it is kind of thing. I want to be a part of that. That's the impact I want to leave this world. few years when I get done.
That's awesome. No, that's a good plan. Yeah, it's just something I've been kicking around in my head recently, just thinking about, just trying to predict the industry a little bit and understand where it's going. What are some common misconceptions that people might have about you and what you do? If you were to meet someone new and say, "Oh, I own a CrossFit gym," or "I own a gym," what's something they might assume or think? Like the common one is like, "Oh, you just get to work out all day. You just hanging out." Right? Have you ever run into anything like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The joke I always make is like, "Hey, you want like the quickest way to get out of shape is to own a gym." Yeah, it is. It's
Why is that?
Well, because again, like you got to wear all the other hats, and realistically, and I tell coaches this too. It's like, I like the best athletes don't always make the best coaches in any sport. I mean, you pick a sport kind of thing. It's not just CrossFit, but I think kind of like talking about CrossFit. There's a reason that like the elite CrossFitters you aren't necessarily coaching. They might be business owners, and they might have come from coaching and all other aspects, but they all have a coach, and like that coach probably wasn't an elite level athlete kind of thing. And realistically, again, and I tell them, it's like, hey, when you're a coach, like other people's workouts are more important. It's like, you have an elite athlete, like when they come into the gym and they've got 90 minutes worth of stuff they do, like if somebody comes in and asks them a question, they're like, hey man, I'm doing my workout. I'm like, if you're a coach and you're trying to sneak in your workout, but somebody's in here and they ask you a question, like you need to stop what you're doing and talk to them about what's happening. And yeah, it sucks. And like, maybe that's why you should take your other coach's classes and like be a student at that point in time. And like, obviously, like when somebody asks you a question, like, hey, I'm not coaching this, like ask the coach, but I'll be more than happy to help you kind of thing. And so like, I think that's one of the biggest conceptions is that's like, you get to hang out in the gym all day long. You must be working out all the time in great shape. And you're like, well, no, because I get these 20 other hats that I got to do. And oh, by the way, I'm a husband and I'm a father and, and whatnot, and a brother and a son, so it's like all these other responsibilities, everybody else has, but just like, then I'm also trying to like coach 5:30 in the morning until 7 o'clock at night and do all this other stuff at the same time, kind of thing. I think it's gotten better. And again, I've been doing CrossFit kind of like officially since, 2008 or so, that like when you tell people like I own a CrossFit gym, that like the picture that they immediately develop and still, but I would say still, like a lot of times when people say, oh, I've heard of CrossFit, like it's going to be one or the other. Like
there's some sort of barrier to get over.
Exactly.
Once you say the word,
it's a cult, or my friend loves it. I've always wanted to try it, kind of thing.
Or you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, it's like, it's really dangerous and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, so like overcoming, and I think that's fun because to me it's
a chance to educate.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, and again, like I remember doing a presentation one time at this networking group, and the same thing. I was like, hey, like, why am I a CrossFit gym now? Like, why did I decide to affiliate? And it's like, it's like, when I said CrossFit, did you picture this? And of course, it's like shirtless Matt Frazier and Rich Froning and Sarah Sigmundsdottir, like pictures of those people. And like, like you said, like people laying on the floor, flopping around. You're like, is that what you picture? Doing
weird pull-ups.
Yeah. And then it's like, and then I'm like, go to the next slide kind of thing. And I show pictures of like our actual members, like a mother and daughter working out together. And like, my 75-year-old dad, and then like, our 16-year-old kids and stuff like that, and everywhere in between. And then even to me, it was really, really cool. Beginning of this year, when CrossFit, like they changed their website, right? Like January 1st or whatever, and I'll make the joke about the couches.
0101, 19. Huh?
And it's like you make it the couches and the videos with the older people and all, and the jugs and the broomsticks. But I was like, we want to make fun of it, but I'm like, but this is the point. Like, is CrossFit, while it's not for everybody, it can be for anybody, kind of thing. And so, like, if you want to move better and be better and live a healthier life,
make some friends along the way.
Yeah, exactly. And like get good coaching, then like this really is for you. Like, it's not just for the elite athletes. Like, it's really the 1%. I mean, we talk about that all the time. Like, how many hundreds of thousands of people are playing basketball every day? But there's only a few, 1% or whatever, that are getting paid millions of dollars to do it.
Right.
And they're awesome. And God bless them. Like, that's why they should be getting paid millions of dollars to do it. And that's great. But it's like, hey, like that's those CrossFitters aren't the one.
A pickup game on the weekend with your buddies. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So
and it's funny. Glassman talks about the birth of the new website, and he says, the whole idea, he's like, I think there was some misconception of that because the whole idea wasn't to say that you guys should be doing workouts in your home with water jugs. It was for people of the underserved community, which is the, severely overweight and elderly, to see themselves, oh, is that all you're doing is like lifting jugs? Oh, I can do that. And then go into a gym, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting because people are seeing that and saying, oh, that's all CrossFit. Oh, I can do that. And it's working.
Yeah.
It's working. So
absolutely,
it's exciting to see that that's shifting as well. It's tough though without the social media presence. I don't know how that really plays in their long game.
Yeah, I mean, at first I was kind of like, that was weird, and why they do that. But then, so we work with the warm up and workout. You ever heard of those guys before? From Pat Barber and his wife Taz.
No.
And they, that was kind of kicked around in like their, the private Facebook group and all that fun stuff. And Pat's been on the level 1, level 2, instructor for a long time. Like I've got I think he's built at least 2 gyms maybe. Anyway, and it's like, hey, like, he's like, I don't have the answer. I don't know why. But he's like, but all I know is this is an opportunity for us. He's like, for us to tag each other, like, again, like even just in that small community, the warm up and workout crew, but like just CrossFit in general, and like what you're doing, the affiliates, like, well, there's now an opportunity for us to do it. Like, of course, we would love to have a little bit more, all that content that they created, like have access to that kind of thing, but it's also kind of like, hey, now it's our opportunity.
Sure. Tell your own story.
To tell our stories, feature our athletes,
yep.
And not just, again, like I think a lot of times, and Glassman may have hit on this at some point in time, but it's like if you went to the CrossFit website or CrossFit Games, you might have gone this whole path of like, well, everybody looks like a games athlete, and had this idea, like you said, when you meet somebody who's like, oh, I do CrossFit. It's like, well, I don't get it because you don't look like Fraser
right.
or Annie or whatever. And you're like, well, that's 99% of us don't look like that anyway, kind of thing. So,
yeah, not yet anyway.
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Of course.
Just
I'm trying to
give
look
me
like
40 more years. I'll be competitive.
My goal is to look like a female athlete at the end of the
man,
no, I'm just kidding.
That's the cool thing about the women's RX is it's still RX.
Still humbling either way. Why do you think people fail in your industry or close down or whatever? You mentioned Full Circle. They recently closed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't specifically know. I mean, when I left, I try not to get in the business side of it, kind of thing.
Sure.
I mean, there's a million different reasons.
I don't mean Full Circle specifically.
Yeah,
like,
no.
Just an example,
I would say like,
they do close.
I mean, there's a million different reasons. Life changes. Like you have a kid, you lose a job, whatever kind of thing. But I think, and to me, like this is kind of my experience is like I could see where I could potentially fail is because I don't, like not really focusing on the things that I need to build the business and kind of work on the business and get really lost in the weeds. Because again, like I would say the vast majority of us come from that aspect that we love working in the business. So we love coaching, we love being a part of this community, we love that. But it's all those other things that we have to do as business owners that are going to bite us in the butt, that if we don't do that or we don't prioritize that and don't focus on that, then that's what's going to happen. Like that's going to get us. Like, I mean, the government's not going away, right? So if you don't pay your taxes, like boom, they're going to come get it, shut the doors.
If you don't follow someone who interacted with your website,
exactly,
right?
Yeah,
you're never going to get that lead.
Yeah, exactly. And it's never going to be perfect, and it's like and whatnot. But I mean, I would say like for CrossFit, it's definitely not. I mean, I know there's a lot in town. Like we talk about when I first started doing it, I think there was 3 or 4 in town, and then it was like 23, 22 or something like that. And it may seem like a lot, but I'm also like, there's 1 million people that live in Richmond, in the greater Richmond area. And I'm like, if there's, let's say 150 people on average at every single one of these 20 some gyms, right? You're like, there's still a lot of people that aren't members of a CrossFit gym. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's saturated.
No, definitely not saturated.
Definitely not even close, really. And honestly, like I said, you're not going to get every single person in town,
right.
But like that would be the goal, is because we truly know and believe that we have the answer to a lot of the health and wellness problems that are going on in this world, and the commercial gyms don't. And again, like we talked about this before, is like, that's my goal. And it's never going to happen in my lifetime, I don't think, but like I would love to run them all out of Richmond and have only micro gyms, only CrossFit gyms, boutique fitness gyms kind of thing, because that's like, again, you're making that impact one-on-one. Even in a group coaching aspect, you're still getting that one-on-one interaction with people pretty much all, every single day that they're in in your gym. And that's just not happening at commercial gyms. And again, like commercial gyms are around and because there's people that can do that. You know, that can pay that low monthly rate and they can have awesome results and be healthy and that's perfect. And that's great for them. And I love it. It's just that again, like vast majority of people, I don't think that works for.
Right. So, I mean, their model is based on the idea that they don't come in.
Yeah.
Because if everyone came in,
incentivizes you not to come in.
If everyone came in that signed up, they would have to shut down because they'd be over capacity. So yeah, of course, $10 a month. If I don't come in but once a month, then I can justify the $10 and I can stay a member forever.
Yeah.
But if I'm paying closer to personal training rates, I'm coming in, so it incentivizes me to come in. But also I'm getting that personal training touch. So yeah, we value obviously having people in the doors.
Absolutely.
So you would say it's probably not a lack of members in Richmond. It's not due to saturation. It's other than like life events or like lease agreements falling apart, whatever. You would say it's probably just the lack of business knowledge or ability to execute. Because
again, like that's just me. I'm kind of like extrapolating. Like, you know, if I were to fail, and obviously like there's still obviously a chance every single day you own a business, but that's definitely what I know would be why. And again, it's not bragging, but it's like, you know, I'm a good coach. I think I'm a good coach. I've learned a lot over the years. I'm still learning. Like that's always been the good thing. But if I'm not kind of trying to put that same focus on my business, again, like on versus in, then like that's definitely going to be what trips you up kind of thing. So,
yeah. I mean, even with hiring people, you can find.
Oh, absolutely.
You can easily teach someone the foundational movements, how to spot flaws. Like that's in a weekend course. That's why it's fairly simple. It's real clear.
Yep.
And then after that, it's just practice, getting the reps in. But teaching someone to have empathy, passion, humility for what they do, drive, growth mindset, all those things that would make them successful, either in business or just being a part-time coach. Not as easy to teach because if they don't have the self-awareness, then they're not going to see that they need it.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to somebody today about this. Just I got a couple of kids that are coming in a little while. They're looking to go in the Army or the military. And, you know, they were like, kind of like, what can you do? They're going to leave in April. Like, can you put together a plan? And I'm like, ooh, time out. Like, the hardest question to ask somebody is why. You know, it's like, hey, you want to, cool. Like, I ran into this a lot. Like, again, like guys and girls, but like mostly guys, like they either want to be a SEAL or an EOD guy or a diver or whatever. And you're like, okay, cool. That's awesome. Let's sit down and talk. Like, why do you want to do that? And when you'd see somebody trip over their own answer, like why they can't really put their finger on why they want to do something. Well, it looks cool in the movies. You're like, well, okay, yeah, it does, but that's not going to get you through what you need to do. And so, like you said, the empathy, it's like, yeah, like somebody who walks into our door, right, or reaches out and calls us, like they've gone through all these other steps. Like they've probably gone through, you know, they've gone to the Globo Gym, you know, they've gone to boot camp potentially or something along those lines, and it hasn't worked for them. And now they're reaching out to us at CrossFit or, you know, again, like a micro gym, similar aspect. And if we don't get to that why are you here now? Like, why are you reaching out to me? Why is this important? Why are these goals that we're talking about, you know, lose 15 pounds? Like, okay, that's a specific number. Why? Like, we don't get, and it's hard. And again, like that's one of the biggest things as I develop coaches and you try to expand your coaching staff and build coaches to be successful is, you know, like the first answer is never the answer. Like that's that first layer, and you gotta keep going, you know, more and more and more.
You gotta get that trust.
Yeah, exactly. And then you learn. You're like, hey, like this guy I talked to a couple of days ago. It's like he's like I was I smoked in college, drank a lot in college, just out of shape. You know, I was like I was never really big, but it's like one day I just decided I was gonna stop, and I started running. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, why'd you decide that? I'm like, why running? And the next thing you know, you learn that his dad is overweight, his mom's overweight, they're divorced, they weren't happy, but with each, you know, like his brothers, you know, and he's like, I just don't want to be that way. And you're like, man, that's a huge thing right there. And you're like,
that's the motivator.
Like, there you go. There's the apple. Like, that's the boom. That's the thing you want to get to. You peel that onion out and you find that apple in the middle, which is a dumb analogy, but you're like, that's the sweet spot. That's where you want to get to. And like, that's really what's going to keep you coming back and doing the things you're doing right now. kind of thing. And I was like, that's awesome. I was like, that, you know the answer, you found the answer, and you verbalized it. Most people can't do that kind of thing.
Yeah. So. No, that's great. You got to get down to the core for sure. What gets you excited about what you do? Like to come in and flip on the light. You mentioned you're wearing all the hats, and like what, other than necessity, and anyone could just shut down and go back to a full-time job. But like, what gets you excited to come in, flip on the lights, turn the music on, 5 a.m. and 3, 2, 1, go. Like,
because that's the fun part, man. Honestly, like, no, it is. It's like I said, I think like I found my calling, I found my passion, and like I love honestly, like the biggest thing I love. I mean, there's a million things, but the biggest thing I love to see is when members and students and athletes like find and experience the things that we see them. Like when we're a coach, like it's like, man, I can see that you can go a little harder. I can see you can do a little bit more weight on that bar. I can see you can go a little bit faster, or whatever it is. You can accomplish these things. And you can tell it, you can verbalize it, and you can coach it, and you can cue it, and you can give them all this other things, and it doesn't always click. But when it clicks and you see, like and I tell people all the time, like you have that, it's like there's a physical reaction in somebody when it clicks, and they're like, oh my God, he said I can do this, and I just did it, and it felt great, and it went well, and I did exactly like they have this visual response, like this outward response, and it's just like bam, boom. It doesn't happen every day. That doesn't happen every single day.
But you see those videos, right? Yeah. It's like the first pull up or the first muscle up, and they're kicking their legs while they're in the air, like just so excited. They hop off and they're dancing, I'm one of my first ones, like man, years ago was this girl Alex, and it's like a squat clean, right? You're like, it's like, hey, you could clean so much more if you learn to get under the bar, and you can say it, you can show them videos, you can cue it, you can practice it, and you can skill after drill after drill after drill. Until literally one day, like I can still see it in my day, like she's like, full triple extension, shrugged, gets under the bar, like hadn't even finished like getting under the bar and into that like perfect squat yet, when all of a sudden the eyes just like boom, she just blew. She's like, oh my God, this is exactly what you've been saying for the last 3 months. And I was like, yes. And so like, when you have those moments, and even though I don't get those every single day, but I see the opportunity every single day. There's at least one person or one movement or something that somebody does every single day where I'm like, man, you're like super close. And then to see that improvement, and then to see that, it's like the opportunity to affect someone's life directly. Yeah. Every day. I think that's why I enjoy it. And found a passion in it. So it's nice to hear similar things with that. What's next for S3E?
Oh God. Ugh. Growth, man. No, that's a hard question. I'm not sure. Like, I think we talked about. I mean, one of the things I'd really like to do more, like, kind of get back is really. And I kind of I did a little bit of this when I was at Full Circle. With something I would like to do a little bit more of is really kind of working with. The guys and girls in our community that are looking to go into the military, and just not just prepare them physically, like that's the easy part, like getting you ready to do a 2-mile run or whatever kind of thing. It's super easy to do, and like anybody can do that, but really just like build that perspective of like really what it's all about, like what you're really getting into kind of thing. Again, like I did a lot of that with guys like kind of going into the specialty programs, SEALs, EOD, and all that other fun stuff. Again, that like really talking about like what's the difference between that and regular whatnot. But I'd like to do that for like the general population at all. I mean, not general population, that's right, but all the people that are like working with recruiters and all that fun stuff. So that's one thing that, again, like I had the privilege to serve for 22 years kind of thing. And, in the community I was in, again, like, I don't know how they selected me, man. Sometimes you're like, how did you guys pick me to be in all these awesome dudes that I got to hang around with all the time? But you're like, hey, I had that privilege, and it's a responsibility. I mean, it's not that it's a bad thing, but I just want to give back, and really set people up for success. I think that would be that's something here in Richmond that, I mean, again, I know there's a ton of veterans that have a lot of experience and are awesome and that are doing that kind of maybe on one-on-one, like mentorship and all that fun stuff. But honestly, like that, that's one thing I think we can expand on.
Yeah, I think you have an opportunity right now with the new PT test for the Army to get people in the door, because it's
Army and the Marines and Navy's even talking about, taking them out, switching theirs up a little bit more to a functional fitness combat test kind of thing related and all that fun stuff.
You got deadlifts, kettlebell, sprint drags.
Absolutely. So medicine ball throw or something like that.
Yeah, so to me, I'm excited, of course, for my next PT test, it's going to be that. But for a lot of people, they haven't done any of that stuff. So that would be really cool to see. I've seen some CrossFit gyms actually do that. They've advertised that they do that kind of prep training. That'd be a good way to get them in the door. And then you could break them down mentally if you want.
I was never a yeller, man. It wasn't never the guys who were yelling at me. I was like, all right, cool. Like I got used to that. Like initially it was like, all right, this sucks. But you get used to that. But it was always the ones that would talk to me very calmly, whether it was with a bullhorn or just in my ear, and you're like, oh, this guy's scaring the shit out of me right now. Because he's just like, why are you so calm?
Yeah, why are you so calm?
Everyone else is freaking out.
Exactly.
Everyone else is yelling, but you're not. Oh, that was the ones that freaked. That was, all right, you got me. You got me, man. No.
Yeah. You have any advice for other business owners that maybe you're trying to open, or they're in the same shoes as you, or any step of your journey that you've...
Oh, man. Reach out. Let's talk. Let's have coffee and eat lunch. I mean, I think we talked about it when you first, came to talk to Tibbs and I about the what you want to do with the collective. It was like, this is awesome, man. Like initially, in the early days of CrossFit, you're like, oh, somebody opened up a CrossFit gym across the street from me, and you're like, oh, but you're really like, that's awesome. Like I think we talked about, we need more. And I think if we can work together, and it's hard, like you said it too, you're like, I could open up an affiliate and wear 20 different hats and not have time to collaborate. Or you could do something like you're doing now, which is amazing, as you're trying to take a little bit of burden off of us and get us to collaborate a little bit more on, some of these things. And again, like it doesn't have to be a lot of time or effort sometimes to just like hear an idea and be like, boom, I can do that. Thanks for sharing. And but then also like reach out, like let's talk, let's have conversations. And again, like I don't want to be the competition for other CrossFit gyms. I want to get rid of the Globo gyms kind of thing. And to me, I'd say like anybody's like thinking about, starting a gym or thinking about being a coach or whatever it is, like, man, come talk to us. Like I will give you free advice all day long kind of thing. That's awesome. Please, like that's what I would say is don't be afraid. Like if I'd go back and tell myself, I was like, don't be afraid to like talk to more people, before getting started kind of thing. I'm not saying like wait, but just like,
sure.
Like the more people you can talk to, the more experience and more, that people have been in those shoes and made the mistakes, that are still making the mistakes, and be like, hey man, I just did this the other day and it was stupid. Like you can be like, all right, cool, I'm gonna write that down and make sure I don't do that.
Yeah,
kind
definitely.
of thing. So
I'll say it was really neat at the last networking event seeing you and Anna chatting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just because you're right across the street from her, right? And she was on our first episode. And it's cool to see, and obviously you're not direct competitors, I guess, in a way, because she's not specifically offering CrossFit, but at the same time, I would say you're very remotely close as far as what you do. But I think it's awesome because you guys are across the street from each other. You could have animosity. You could be kind of like, I don't want to, hang out. But like you guys were just, shooting the stuff back and forth, chit-chatting. I thought that was the coolest thing. I was like, this is exactly what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, we reached out. It's Richmond. You're only like 2 or 3 degrees separated from, anyway. So my wife has a really good friend who's been a client of Anna's for a long time now.
Oh, sweet.
So I knew who she was and everything. And like, obviously when we looked for this space, I wasn't purposely being like, I'm going to right across the street from her and take all her clients. Like that's, you could be that way, but there's no reason to do that. So I reached out, we reached out, and we connected, and she came over and we chatted and all that fun stuff. We talked about it. She was like, initially I was like, and I was like, I totally get that. That's totally
shock factor.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
Oh my God, there's another one right across the street from me.
Yeah.
But the more we talked, and it was like, like functional fitness, CrossFit, functional fitness, personal training, whatever, like it all overlaps. Like Glassman was a personal trainer, right? Like more and more people are talking about that now. And it's like, they're not exclusive kind of things. It's like, there's so much overlap. And, to me, again, like what I talked about with her was just like, it's like, hey, if this isn't a good fit for you, And she is, and I'm like, I don't care. I'm gonna take your money. Like, go over there and see her.
Yep.
And it's like, I hope she would be the same way. And I know she would. Like, and that's like, if you build those relationships, that's exactly what's gonna happen. You know, it's like, again, like the greater Richmond area, if somebody lives in Powhatan, like they're not gonna drive all the way up here to train with me and be like, well, go see the awesome dudes at Pushing Weight, right? They're right next door to you kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like if
Let me
like,
introduce
maybe if you want to drive an hour up here, cool, that's awesome. Like, I'll definitely take your money, but if you want to save 55 minutes, like I will introduce you to Kara and her team there. And it's like, they're awesome. And you're going to have a great time and you're going to crush it. And I think that karma and, you know, comes back tenfold when, you know, they'll hear somebody be like, oh, well, you know, I'm in Lakeside or I'm in Northside or whatever. Be like, oh, go check out Matt's gym. He was really cool. I don't train there because I live next door to this one.
Yep.
And like, it's fine.
Definitely.
So yeah, and the same thing. It's like, even though we're right across the street from each other, you know, her time's a little different. Like, you know, her style's a little different. Like, you know, it's like, go, and I'll tell people like, go check out her classes. You know, and again, like that's, so yeah, no, I agree. And the same, I would say the same thing like CrossFit gyms. It's, if I ever get anybody in here that's like, you know, you're the first one I've been to, I'm like, well, you should go to another one. Like,
definitely, because they're so different from each other.
Yeah, some have bigger classes, some have smaller classes, and like some have bigger spaces, some have smaller spaces. I'm like,
well, the classes can be completely different.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, yeah, and like coaching style, like again, like we all coach CrossFit, and again, like the workouts are not what we're selling, but the coaching style might be different, and it's just maybe more conducive to what people want. And then again, like times and price points and distances from work and all that fun stuff. It's like,
more focused, right? So you're putting an endurance spin on some of your stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
How you do it.
Exactly.
And then other gyms are putting a strength thing.
And and I think that's cool that we, again, as a collective, we start to learn, you know, a little bit more about, you know, like you were talking about earlier, like strength Metcon. Like there's not anything wrong with that. I wouldn't say it's like the answer for every single person, but that may be the answer for those clients at that gym.
Yep.
And so if I know that and somebody comes talk to me and they're like, man, I really want to do strength Metcon, you know, or something, you know, I get that feeling.
Strength,
they're like, I love this and it fires me up and this is all I want to do, you know, day in and day out. I'd be like, cool. And the same thing like with Jason at Full Circle and those things. If somebody ever came to me and was like, you know, I've seen the strongman show and I'm really interested in strongman. I'm like, Jason is a phenomenal strongman coach. I'm not. I've done a show, but that doesn't make me an expert in nothing, right? I did it just because I was trying to help him out, get more people in there, and we had a good time. But I was like, I'm never doing that again. But yeah, I mean, like, go talk to him, or go talk to the guys at the weight room, right? Go talk to Chris and those guys at the weight room. Like, those, like, if you're looking for strongman stuff, like, boom, go talk to those guys. And so that's what you're doing is bringing us together. You know, and so like the few of us that are like have that endurance passion, that endurance background, absolutely. Be like, hey, if you really want to try some endurance stuff or aerobic capacity kind of fires you up, talk to Matt. You know, again, like it may not be a perfect fit, but like maybe try it out and see what you like.
Definitely.
So,
yeah, I think it's important to show those differences in the market and for the general population to understand that there is such differences between the gyms. If you could pick any other profession than this one, what would it be?
Oh God, yeah. I saw like I saw you emailed the question earlier, and I was like, man, there'd be so many. Well, I was a civil engineer major at school, done nothing with that since. But no, in all seriousness, I was thinking about it. I was driving here today, and I was like, one thing that I'm kind of getting more curious about is like photography, which sounds weird. It's nothing like even remotely close that I've done. I think I took a photography class in middle school or something like that. But anyway, I mean, it would be like a nature or wildlife or kind of thing. So it's like,
let's say you could practice with your own gym.
I know. Yeah. Well, it's hard to coach and take pictures at the same time, but it's hard to believe that like I really truly am an introvert kind of thing. Like I've practiced skills that make it sound like I'm not an introvert, but man, I really love those times where I can just kind of like be off by myself, or you just kind of like recharging the batteries out in the woods and all that fun stuff. And yeah, I don't know how I would get paid for that, but like, yeah, just to try my hand at it. Like, again, money, no object, won the lottery, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Just something you wanted to try.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking about that, but I mean, engineering was fun. I like the numbers and like being, again, outside on a construction site. That's a civil engineering type of stuff that I did, or like studied for, again, never really did. But yeah, I think like photography, again, kind of like, again, not models and all that just fun stuff, but like
being out in nature, being
absolutely
closer to nature.
Yeah, I mean, I see the stuff on Instagram, people like, you know, like taking pictures of the mountains off in the distance, you know, lakes and
beautiful
streams.
landscapes.
Yeah, I'm like that. Like I would love to do that and sell it to National Wildlife or National Geographic and all that other fun stuff or whatever. Like, so,
awesome. That sounds like fun.
Yeah.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how weird are you?
That depends on how you define weird.
What would someone else say?
I mean, I literally get fired up about diffusing bombs. So like, that's pretty weird. God, what would people say? I think people would say I'm kind of weird. Like dad jokes, that's what I'm kind of known for. People are like, haha, he's always got the funny dad jokes kind of thing. Taste in music is definitely weird. I can listen to like Metallica one day and Mozart right after that kind of thing. And I'd say pretty average, I guess, maybe 7, 8. Again, it kind of depends on what you define by.
That's all right.
It depends on how you define weird. So
are these your clients?
Yeah, I think so. But
awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, dude.
People can find you on Instagram, S3E.
Yeah, S3E CrossFit. And then we're on Facebook and whatnot too. So S3E Performance Fitness on Facebook. So
yeah, sounds good.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much.
Thanks, brother. Thanks, man.
Thanks for tuning in to the RVA Affiliate Collective podcast. This is Joe Ellis. Be sure to follow us on iTunes and give us a subscribe. Also check us out on YouTube under the same name, RVA Affiliate Collective. And don't forget our shop, rvaaffiliatecollective.org. Thank you. Have a good one.